Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for giving me the chance. My name is Mohamed. I'm a cybersecurity consultant, and I do have more than 20 years of experience in this field in information and cybersecurity. And today's subject will be about disaster recovery and business continuity. I'll try to make the subject as realistic as possible. And the main purpose of this webinar is to show you how are we conducting the disaster recovery and business continuity realistically. And to be honest, our focus will be mainly on the disaster recovery, but also we will try to explain what is the difference between disaster recovery, which we currently called cyber resilience, and business continuity. So let me share my screen and let's start. The session will be around 45 minutes and we will take like 10 or 15 minutes in case anyone got any questions. So before explaining the process of disaster recovery and business continuity, let's see if this is a mandatory requirement today as an information security or a cybersecurity specialist. So if you do a small research online to see the different cybersecurity jobs, especially the operational one, like the cybersecurity specialist or information security specialist, you will get to see that in any job description, one of the requirements is usually to collaborate with information technology staff to be able to build a disaster recovery plan. So this is right now one of the main skills that anyone need to have to align with his skill as an information or a cybersecurity specialist. Also, it's one of the standard and compliance requirements. So in ISO 27001, one of the requirements is to build a disaster recovery and business continuity for your organization. In NEST, in PCI DSS. So in most of the standard and compliance, one of the main requirements is to build a business continuity and disaster recovery. Now, in the job description here, as you can see, the focus was only on the disaster recovery part. Okay. But there is one main point that you need to keep in mind, which is a common responsibility between security and IT people. So it's not something that you will do by yourself. Actually, most of the heavy work is done by IT department. Now, let me show you how we are doing the disaster recovery and what is our responsibility and what is IT department responsibility. So let me jump to the presentation here. I don't want to keep the session theoretical. I'm just going to go through some main point and then I'm going to show you realistically how are we doing it. So the main difference between business continuity and disaster recovery. Business continuity is a business document. It's not a technical document. Because think about it. If you faced any disaster as an organization, it's not only about restoring system. If a disaster was, any like a earthquake or a fire interruption or a fire or whatever was a problem, a power interruption or a fire, whatever was a problem, there is a lot to be considered beside the restoration of the system to be able to get back to work. For example, evacuation of the people. This is something that need to be included in the business continuity. What about moving people from one side to another side? This is also need to be done. And this is not a security responsibility. So my point is the business continuity, it's a business document and it includes a lot of sub-document inside. This could be, for example, evacuation plan, transportation plan, disaster recovery plan. So the disaster recovery is a technical plan, which is a part of the business continuity plan. This is what you need to keep in mind. And most of the time, you will be only responsible for the disaster recovery planning, which is a part of the business continuity. Most of the time, we as a security team, we are not the one who is managing the business continuity. Okay, it usually with maybe operation department, a strategic department, and so on. So how should we start? Okay, and this is what I would like to explain it realistically. What should we or how should we start when it comes to creating a disaster recovery or a business continuity? To be able to explain how should we start, we need to know what is the purpose of having a disaster recovery plan. The main purpose of having a a disaster recovery plan is to be able to restore all the organization system and resume our business on an agreed amount of time. So let's say I'm working in an entity like healthcare, a hospital, for example, and this hospital is providing a lot of services to their patient and the new customer and people with medical history and so on. All the services that they provide is based on their infrastructure. They do have an application, they do have a system, they do have a network. So if anything went wrong, they got a ransomware, they got a fire, they got a power interruption, whatever problem happened, the business will be interrupted. Imagine if the hospital cannot access the patient information or the patient medical history, they cannot be able to work. Your responsibility is to have a plan to restore those systems in an agreed amount of time. So if a problem happens, I will be able to restore the business in 5 hours, in 2 hours. So it's all based on timing, because restoring a system, it's not really the problem. Whatever problem happen, eventually you restore the system. But the thing is, you can restore the hospital system in a couple of weeks, or you can restore the hospital system in 1 day. This is the main core of the disaster recovery, is to have a timing to restore. And how do we do that? We do that by creating the business impact analysis. And this is the only document that you're going to create, the BIA. Most of the other document will be done by IT department. You just need to make sure it's done the right way. Okay. So the first and most important document in a disaster recovery or cyber resilient plan, because those are now the same, is the business impact analysis. So let me show you how the business impact analysis look like to keep this more practical. So let me go to the toolkit, the ISMS toolkit, and let me go to disaster recovery and business continuity. And let me show you the template for ISMS business impact analysis. Okay, let's maximize it. This is a sample of a business impact analysis. What do we have here? I don't know if I should zoom in a little bit or not, but let me do it anyway. Here you go. So what should I have in the business impact analysis? This needs to be done for each department, by the way, but most of the time we do that only for IT department. What should be included here? Here we need to include all our critical system. So as an IT department, I do have systems that provide the business. For example, I may have an email services. Is this critical for the business or not? Imagine a company that have a problem with their email system. This will affect the business or not, right? Maybe 1 hour, it's okay, 2 hours, but what if the email is not working for 2 hours? I'm sorry, for 2 days. It will definitely affect the business somehow. What about the Active Directory? If I have an Active Directory and it crash for any reason, no one is able to log into the Active Directory and everyone is sitting idle doing nothing. What if we have a company website and in any problem happen, this will affect the business or not? If the website is a normal website, browsing information and so on, fine. But what if it's an e-commerce website or something that we are using to sell product? So we should start by identifying as a business what are the critical business function. And we write them here, and we write all the dependency. For example, if we take the email services, okay, this, where is it? Yeah. If we take, for example, the email services, the mail services, what is the dependency needed for the email services? What do I need to be able to run the email services? We need to have a server. We need to have an application, which is Microsoft Exchange. We need to have an internet connectivity. You have to write all the dependency needed for the service here. Same go for the Active Directory. Same go, because here we are not writing the product name first. First, we write the services. Then we write what are the product we are using to provide or to enable those services. So we should start by here. We should start identifying what do we have as a critical business function and what are the requirements for each one of those functions. Mail services, Active Directory, website, portal, whatever service we have. We need to write all the information. What do we need as a software, as a hardware, as an internet connectivity? Is this service provided by a vendor or it has a support? So if a problem happens, should I call the support? You have to fill this information in the best and detailed and more or the most detailed way. So you put all the information, you collect that from IT department. They know better. They know what applications they have to provide email services, what infrastructure, what is the hardware requirement. Is it a part of the support contract or not? You try to collect as much as possible related to this information. Now, guys, keep in mind, this is done by you. You are the one responsible filling them and taking a sign off on it, but you collect the information from IT department, okay? So we fill all the information until we reach this point. And this is the critical part of it, which is the MTD, RTO, RPO, especially the MTD, okay? The MTD. Now the MTD stands for maximum tolerant downtime. Sometimes you will find it under the name of MAO, maximum allowed outage, maximum allowed outage. What is this value, which is usually a time duration, 2 hour, 4 hour, 12 hour? What is exactly this value? The MTD is the acceptable outage by the department or the company. For example, when I say that the maximum tolerable, the MTD for the email service, sorry guys, I'm trying to zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. If you say, for example, that the email services downtime or the MTD for the email services is 2 hours, it means that the management is accepting that the email services should not be more than 2 hours. So you get from the management those value. What is the acceptable downtime? So the email, for example, if it's down, for how long it will not affect the business? If it's down for 2 hours, is it okay? If he said okay, fine. But if 3 hours, it will be okay. He will say no, 3 hours, we're gonna start raising problem or getting problem. So we usually get those value from the department management. Okay. Of course, most of the management will say we don't want to have any downtime. We want all our system to be up 24/7. Fine, it's doable, but it's costly. Because if you want to have a high availability where your system will be up most of the time, you're going to need to have a redundancy. You're going to need to have a cloud services. You're going to need to have more people. So it's doable, but expensive. So usually we try to explain that to the management. I mean, yes, if high availability is needed, we can provide that, but you're going to need to support. You're going to need to finance it. Most of the times they understand that. So those value, you need to collect them from the management, which is the acceptable downtime, because you're going to build your restoration plan based on those value. So if the management say, okay, for the email services, it should not be down more than 2 hours. For the Active Directory, it should not be down more than 1 hour. For our website, it should not be down more than 24 hours. It depends on the criticality. But you should not write those value yourself. You just need to get those value from the management and even getting a sign off on it, because you're going to build all your plan based on those value. Okay. This is the first step we are doing, collecting the list of all the critical business function, all the infrastructure needed to run those business function, and what is the acceptable downtime. Okay. Once I do that, let's say I have 10 services. Okay. What I will do, I will now start coordinating with IT department. So the next step will be to create what we call a restoration plan. So what I will do, I will go to the IT department and ask them to one second, let me, yeah, got it. So the second step is to go to the IT department and tell them, guys, I want you to create a step-by-step plan on how to restore each one of those services. Now, usually it's not only one guy from IT who is doing all those restoration plans, but each system custodian need to create a step-by-step plan on how to restore the system in case of any problem. Because those people know well. I mean, the email administrator, he know how to restore the system and reconfigure it and connect to the database in case a problem happen. The guy who's managing the Active Directory, he know. The guy who's managing the Linux system, he know. So each system custodian need to create a step-by-step plan, and it should be very, very, very detailed. It should include a screenshot. It should include steps in a way that if this guy left the organization and a problem happened, you can still get this document and give it to whoever is in charge, and he will follow the step and be able to restore the plan. So this part, of course, I cannot show you this plan, it's kind of sensitive, but I'm just explaining the idea behind it. So if I have 10 critical services, accordingly, I should have 10 restoration plan. And as I told you, it should be detailed as much as possible. Who is creating those plans? The IT department. Each system custodian need to create a document explaining how he usually restores the system, include a screenshot, include, step by step, every details possible. Should I understand what is inside the document? What if he wrote the steps and he explained the configuration? Does it mean that I should know exactly what is written inside the document? Absolutely. I will tell you what exactly is my responsibility, but this needs to be done by IT department. As I told you, if I have 10 critical services, I need to have accordingly 10 restoration plan. Now, are we done here? Is this a disaster recovery plan? Okay, let me see first if anyone get any question. Oh, sorry. And accordingly, we will move to the next step. Guys, please let me know if I'm talking too fast, too slow, if everything is clear. Sorry. 1 second. Yeah, here you go. Any questions so far, guys? Feel free to write it inside the chat. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we were saying, is this all? I mean, once I do that, am I done with the restoration plan, or I still have something to be done? Let me go back to my document here one more time. Actually, the situation here is that I do have a business impact analysis and I do have a restoration plan. But how do I know that this restoration plan is effective? Let me go back to the document one more time. So it's not enough to have the plan. Maybe whoever wrote the plan wrote it in whatever way he wants, and it's not really that effective. How can I know that in case of any disaster, the plan will be effective? Those plans need to be tested. So when I get all the plan, I should start arranging for the testing part. And who is doing the testing is usually also the IT department. So once I get all the plan from the IT department, then I will start arranging a testing phase, because we need to make sure that whatever it's written inside the plan makes sense. So we will make a schedule, security with IT department, and we will decide about the dates and time for testing those plans. Most of the time we do that after working hour, and we will be there. The IT will be here. I'll be sitting having the copy from the plan, and the IT guy, whoever is managing any system, the system custodian, email system custodian or mail, whoever is managing the system and created the plan, he will be the one who testing the restoration on a testing environment. It could be a virtual machine, it could be a testing server, but I need to make sure that the testing is as per the plan. So what I usually do, I will ask him to start doing the restoration, and I will have a copy of the plan. I don't really, as I just mentioned, I don't really care, or I don't really try to understand what was written inside the restoration plan. What I usually focus on that whatever is written and whatever screenshot is inside the plan, this is exactly what he's doing right now. He logged into the same URL. He was able to restore this machine. He was able to log into this website. So I'm following with the document just to make sure that whatever he wrote in the plan, this is realistic. And we will do that. And we have to document the results of this testing. So what I'm showing you right now is a restoration testing report, where I usually write the date and times, the name of the systems that we restore, when did we start, the start time. So for example, if we start 10 a.m. and when did we finish? We finish, for example, 10:30. So how long the restoration took? For example, it took around 30 minutes, because you have to write down when did you start the testing and when did you finish, when the system admin restores the full system. So if he started 10 and he finished 10:30, it means that the restoration took 30 minutes. Is it acceptable or not? Actually, this needs to be done as MTD. Okay. So I need to have inside the report what is the MTD, the maximum tolerant downtime. For example, the MTD was 2 hours. And let me remind you what is the MTD is acceptable downtime, the time that you should restore the system within this amount of time. So if we, during the test, the system admin was able to restore in 30 minutes according to the written plan, and the MTD that was decided by management was 2 hours, then the test was successful. Okay, but if the restoration testing took 4 hours and the management requested 2 hours, it means that the test failed. Okay, so you have to document if the testing went according to the plan or not, and was it successful or not. So scrolling down here, you can find, is the test went according to the plan, yes or no? Is the test was successful, yes or no? And then you let the team sign, whoever attended the testing, and you sign yourself that you were there. I mean, you are not the one who did the test, you just were sitting and making sure that the IT department checked the plan and they were able to restore the system within this amount of time. Okay. So if the MTD was less, I'm sorry, the RTO was, by the way, RTO is the recovery time objective, which is the real time that was done to restore the system. The management requested 2 hours, but we were able to restore it in 30 minutes. Okay, so usually you are looking to keep the RTO equal or less than the MTD. If it was higher, then you need to go back to the management. First of all, you need to analyze it. Why the restoration took longer time than they expected? Was it because of lack of skills, lack of employees? Your backup strategy need to be changed. You need some technical resources. You need to figure out the reason. And then you need to go to the management, IT management, and tell them, you requested 2 hours, but according to the resources we have, we can only restore in 6 hours. So he can change the MTD, or he can allocate the resources for you that will allow you to restore the system within the acceptable amount of time. This is the full process we are doing in disaster recovery. We create a business impact analysis. We create a restoration plan, and we create a restoration testing. By doing that, now you did your due diligence part. So tomorrow, if a problem happens, not only you have a plan, but the plan is tested and you are confident that you can restore the system within this amount of time and get the business up and running again. So this is the full process. We start with the BIA, then we create, or we ask the IT to create the IT restoration plan, and we do a restoration testing. Also, it's done by the IT, and we make sure that the RTO is, or the recovery time objective, the restoration happened within the acceptable time as per the business impact analysis. This is very briefly about the process. It's not complicated. Most of the heavy work is done by the IT, but it's under our responsibility. And we need to make sure that it's done realistically. It's not just the paperwork that we are filling, because problem happens. And if you just, fill this document for audit, but you never tested them, or you never did a restoration testing, you may end up with a big problem and you will take all the blame. So this is briefly about what we wanted to explain for the business impact analysis, for the disaster recovery planning, and the different process, and what is the difference between disaster recovery and business continuity. What is the common problem we are facing, or challenging we are facing here? First of all, management. When you start talking with management about the MTD and you explain what is the acceptable downtime, it's kind of hard to convince them about accepting a downtime or something like that. So usually we try to explain to them. We don't let them write figures themselves, and we validate what they are saying. So for example, let me go back to the business impact analysis. For example, when they said, okay, I usually do that by survey, by the way. I create a survey and I send to the different department, and I will ask them to write down the service they have, what is the acceptable downtime, and I will give them option, 2 hour, 4 hour, 6 hour to select from. And then also I will ask them, guys, okay, if their management said the acceptable time for 2 system is 2 hours, I have to validate that. What will happen if it will take more than 2 hours? Okay, what will be the impact? Is it going to be, for example, an impact on health? I'm sorry, guys. Is there going to be an impact on the healthcare, health and safety? Is there going to be a financial impact? Is there going to be something related to our reputation as a company? So don't take whatever the management give you for granted. You need to discuss with them, and you need to validate what they are saying. Okay. Same go for the IT department. Usually most of our problem is going with IT department, which is, you ask them to create a restoration plan. They don't really support. They say, okay, we will do it whenever we have time. Usually we suffer with IT department. How do we fix that? We escalate. If it's not working, we usually escalate to their management. We push. We do all our best until things get done the way we want it. So I'm done. I hope it was informative, and please feel free to raise any question in case something was not clear enough. Just stop the sharing. Yeah, good. Guys, I don't know if I stopped the sharing right now or the sharing was working fine. Okay. Let me see if we have any question. Okay. Guys, any question, any doubts? Okay. Which tool or platform do you recommend to manage and automatically part of this BCP? I don't know exactly what you mean by tool. I mean, whatever I explained today, those are templates available online. I mean, if you search for a BIA template, or if you search for a restoration testing or plan, and now with the AI, you can ask, any AI tool to, generate a template for something like that. So it's not really a problem. But if you are talking about a tool to implement or to manage the BCP and DRP, I don't have anything in mind. I think Archer got a very good tool, but most of the time, or most of the project where I was involved, we were doing that manually, because after all, it's just something that you need to make sure it's done according to specific steps. So it's not something that you should consider automation. It has to be done through the process. It needs a lot of communication with department management, with IT, with custodian. So it cannot really be automated if this is what you meant. Okay. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate giving me a chance, and I hope to see you again, guys. Thank you.